Hello, fellow empowerment seekers, and welcome to a new Infinity Experience interview. Today we are so blessed to have with us Susan Gale, who is a teacher and co-founder of a spiritual learning center called The Place of Light. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for being willing to share your Infinity experience with us.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Me too. So let's just get right into it. Where does it begin for you? How does it unfold for you?
The first experience that I remember was when I was 3 years old. And I was in nursery school, and this boy had dared me to climb up a ladder. And I knew that I was going to fall and hurt myself, but I did not want him to think I was afraid, so I went up anyway and did indeed fall and bit a hole in the bottom of my lip. So I knew that I'd best listen to my premonitions from then on, which I did.
That's profound for a 3-year-old, really.
The next experience that I remember was when I was 8, and I was in school, and the whole classroom got dark, and there was this huge white light that filled up the whole classroom, and out of the light came a voice that said, "You're going to be a teacher."
Wow.
I said, "Well, okay, who's going to argue with that?" So I was a teacher.
That's amazing.
In my family was very supportive of anything that we did, and we were never put down as children or as teenagers. And so, looking back, I can tell that we all had gifts, but we never really spoke about it. It was just what we did. Never let my mother go near her Christmas presents because she would know what they were.
Wow.
We always expected our father to come home from the fair with his arms loaded down with stuffed animals because he would know what number the wheel would land on before it was spun. And these were just things that happened. And we didn't really pay any attention to it, that it was special or different. It was just the way we were. I suppose the next big event was when I was 21 and I was introduced to the Edgar Cayce readings.
Wow.
And lo and behold, I was given language for what had been happening and what was being, and I got a deeper understanding of why our lives are the way they are and why things happen to us and what we're supposed to do about them. So it gave me a depth of knowledge that helped me understand tragedy, good things, and how to make your life work better.
It gave you context, which is so powerful.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. It gave me context and language.
So then how did that shift your path? I mean, how did that expand your path, I should say? Because you were already on an ever unfolding, expanding path, obviously. Now that you have context and language.
Yes, yeah. So one of the things that it did was I have 2 sons, and my youngest son was my first son because he was my birth son. And my older son came second because he was adopted. But I did my pregnancy and raised my birth son all by the Cayce readings. I decided what kind of a soul I wanted to attract, and I did indeed attract that with a little extras that I wasn't expecting. But anyway, and he and I spoke from the moment he was born, thought to thought. I always treated him as a soul. He was never treated as a baby. He was never treated as a child. He was always treated as a soul that was wise and complete and struggling to mesh itself with this body. So that's how he was raised, to understand his body and to understand what being human was about and how we had to deal with it through our abilities.
Wow.
So that was important. And it also helped me to see other children and understand why they were experiencing the terrible things that they would experience. I used to run a storefront in the inner city, and There were children just experiencing dreadful things, their houses being burned down because their parents were falling asleep with cigarettes, drunk, and burned their house down, and all these uncertainties. And so while I tried to give them a place that was stable and predictable, I also had an understanding of why they were experiencing what they were experiencing, so I didn't burn out. And I didn't feel sorry for them. I didn't waste time on those kinds of things. We just looked at what their lessons were and helped them learn to be who they could be.
Fantastic.
And I taught school, I worked in camps, I ran my own school, and then I was working at a early childhood program. I was the director of an early childhood program, and we had a child who had been diagnosed as being autistic. And I didn't think he was autistic. And after a while, I go, oh, he's telepathic. I told my poor son, I said, talk to this child, because he could do it at will. I don't do it at will. And within 5 minutes, he explained to this child, this 3-year-old boy, that he needed to be bilingual and talk out loud as well as being a telepath. The child said, but it's so slow and clumsy. And my son said, do you want to go through all these therapy sessions for the rest of your life? And the child said, no. So within a month, the child had a speaking vocabulary of 30 words, and people were so pleased with his progress. I'm thinking, now this resulted in a 5-minute conversation. We really need to have a place where we can work with children looking through a different lens. At that point, I was just thinking children because that's all I'd ever worked with. So I decided that's what I wanted to do. So I did it. And I found someone else who was also interested in doing it, and she likes to be a silent partner, but we opened up the center thinking we were going to work with children and found out we worked with adults. And we also worked with children. And as we went along, I said, I need to write down what I know before I forget, and so it can be shared with everybody. So I wrote the book, Soulful Parenting.
Fantastic.
Would it be cheesy if I held it up right now?
No, please hold it up so people can see.
This is the book, Soulful Parenting.
Fantastic.
And it talks about how to raise your children in a developmental sense from conception through adolescence. Remember their gifts.
So it's addressing it from a mind-body-spirit approach,
yes,
as opposed to just the third dimension. It's approaching it from all dimensions.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
I mean, we are human beings, so we have to learn how to do that, too.
Yeah.
We have to walk in both worlds.
Right.
And in that book are stories from parents, are stories from people who were intuitive children, chapters on discipline, education, as well as the developmental piece of it and what to do and how to, you can expect at each age. So a lot of people will say a child does not know until they're 4 years old that they are intuitive, and that's not it. They just don't have the way to express it.
Exactly.
When they are born.
I agree 100%.
Yes. So that book has everything in it that I know about children and being intuitive and that kind of things. And I'm very pleased with how that turned out. And it's published by ARE Press.
I was just going to ask if you would do that. Say who the publisher was.
I heard. No. Oh, that's what I did. And so now I have 4 classes of adults and older teens that come and learn about their unique way to connect with spirit. And it's their way. We don't teach a one-size-fits-all, but it's a very deep thing. Some people have been studying with me for 4.5 years. And it's just wonderful the things that they can do and how much easier their life is because now they really trust their guidance and they recognize signs when they come and they understand what's going on in their lives better. So that's a very fulfilling thing to see.
Yes, I'm sure it is. That's fantastic. In closing, Susan, is there a statement you'd like to share with everyone? Just sort of wrap it up for you?
Sure. I think that each one of you has an ability that you're so used to having. It's like the premonition I had when I was 3. It's just something you've always done. And because it's not a la Hollywood, you don't think anything of it.
Yeah.
Intuition is very subtle. Intuition is the language of your soul. And so it doesn't crash through or make a big demand. It expects you to rise up and meet it on its terms. So all I say is pay attention, because you're already doing it, but you're just not aware. And that's what I'd like to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Susan, for sharing your amazing story. I know it's going to touch many hearts. Until we have our next Infinity Experience interview, thank you for being part of the Empowered Whole Being community. Namaste.